Daniel was a single father, worn out from his night shift at the auto shop, just looking for a quick coffee at the quiet roadside diner before picking up his daughter. The rain was steady, painting everything in a quiet gray, when he noticed her, sitting alone on the curb in a soaked wedding dress, barefoot, trembling, and crying like her world had ended. He paused. Maybe someone else would stop. But no one did. So he pulled his jacket tighter and approached slowly, his work boots splashing in the puddles. "Miss, are you okay? Do you need help?" he asked gently. She looked up, her mascara streaking down her pale cheeks, eyes filled with disbelief and heartache. She didn't look like someone who had just celebrated the happiest day of her life. She looked like someone who had just escaped something suffocating. "I just walked out of my wedding," she said, her voice barely audible over the rain. Daniel didn't ask why. He didn't offer empty sympathy. He just nodded and handed her his jacket, shielding her from the cold, the world, and whatever she had just left behind. There was something about the way she sat there, not as a bride, not as a stranger, but as someone who had finally made a painful, liberating choice. He didn't know her story yet, but in that moment, she wasn't a runaway bride. She was just a human being, needing kindness. That night would change both their lives forever. Daniel's old pickup truck rumbled softly through the wet night, windshield wipers swiping rhythmically as the rain eased into a drizzle. Emily sat wrapped in a towel, still in her wedding dress, her bare feet curled beneath her. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was safe. Daniel didn't ask questions. He just drove, headlights casting long beams into the empty road ahead. After a while, she spoke. "My name's Emily," she said, voice soft, like it was the first time she'd said her name in her own terms. He glanced at her, nodded, said nothing. It was all she needed. "I didn't just leave a groom," she continued. "I left a life, built by everyone except me. Every choice made for appearances. For status. Not for love. Not for joy." She looked out the window, watching trees blur by. "My father runs a billion-dollar company. I was next. Groom came from another powerful family, an alliance, really. The media loved it. My mother told me to smile more. The planners chose the flowers, the venue, even my dress. I didn't want any of it. Not the marriage. Not the headlines." Daniel stayed quiet, letting her words fill the space. There was no need to fix anything. Sometimes, people just need to be heard. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "I just wanted someone to ask me if I was happy." He finally spoke, voice steady. "Are you?" She looked at him, eyes wide, like no one had ever dared ask. And for the first time in years, she didn't have to lie. Daniel's house was modest. Wooden floors, faded curtains, and the gentle hum of an old heater working hard against the damp night. But it felt like a home. It smelled like coffee and warmth, with a little girl's drawings taped proudly to the fridge. He gave Emily dry clothes, a blanket, and the guest room. No questions, no assumptions. Just kindness. The next morning, light filtered in through the kitchen window as Emily stood awkwardly, pouring water for tea. She still felt out of place, unsure of where she fit in this unfamiliar, ordinary life. Then came a small voice from behind her. "Are you a princess?" Emily turned to see a little girl in pajamas, barefoot, messy hair, and holding a stuffed bunny. Her wide eyes sparkled with curiosity. Emily blinked, then laughed. A real, unfiltered laugh. It startled even her. "Not exactly," she smiled. That morning, something shifted. They made pancakes together, Emily, Daniel, and Lily. They laughed at burnt edges and messy syrup spills. Emily helped Lily with her spelling homework, and Lily insisted Emily braid her hair like the ladies in fairy tales. Emily felt a strange lightness in her chest. Not the kind bought with wealth or worn like a gown, but something deeper. She wasn't being watched, managed, or marketed. She wasn't someone's daughter, or a bride, or an heiress. She was just Emily. For the first time in a long time, she was surrounded not by people who wanted something from her, but by people who simply welcomed her. And in that tiny kitchen, wearing borrowed clothes and flipping pancakes, she began to wonder what life could be, if it was truly hers to choose. The sun hung low in the sky as Emily stepped into Daniel's auto shop, her once polished heels now replaced with scuffed sneakers. The air smelled of oil and metal, but it felt strangely refreshing. Daniel handed her a wrench with a crooked grin. "Ready to get your hands dirty?" She laughed. "Only if you promise not to judge my manicure. Or what's left of it." Over the next few days, Emily kept coming back. She learned how to change a tire, patch a radiator, and use a socket wrench without dropping it on her foot. She watched Daniel work with quiet determination, fixing things not for wealth or recognition, but because people needed help. There was no glamour, no spotlight, just honest effort and real connection. One morning, a grumpy old man stormed in, furious about a truck that wouldn't start. Emily, of all people, offered to check the battery while Daniel worked under the hood. The man, unimpressed at first, eventually softened as she confidently handed over the jumper cables and smiled. "You've done this before?" he asked. "Once or twice," she said, smudged with grease, glowing with purpose. She wasn't pretending anymore. She genuinely wanted to be here. That evening, while Daniel swept the shop floor, Emily stepped outside and made a phone call. Her voice was low, steady, serious. "Yes, I've made my decision. I want it transferred quietly. No names, no attention. Just make it happen." She looked up at the sky, now painted in hues of gold and lavender, and felt something stir in her. Peace, maybe. Daniel had no idea what she was planning. And she wasn't ready to tell him. Not yet. But he had given her something no money ever had, a reason to care again. Weeks passed, and life settled into something beautiful and quiet. Daniel kept working at the shop, raising Lily with the same steady patience he always had. Emily, now living in a small apartment above the bakery, started volunteering at the local library. She read to kids, organized shelves, and learned the joy of living simply, on her own terms. Then, one ordinary morning, Daniel opened the mailbox outside the shop and found an envelope. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a property deed. His name. His shop. Fully paid. He stared at it, stunned. No explanation, no signature. Just freedom. Later that day, he walked into the library and found Emily reshelving books. She looked up and smiled, but her expression changed when she saw the paper in his hand. "Why would you do this?" he asked, his voice low, almost hurt. Emily's eyes softened. She put the book down. "Because you helped me when you didn't have to. You didn't care about my last name or my money. You treated me like a person when I felt invisible. You gave me a safe place to fall apart. And from that, I found the strength to build again." She paused, then added quietly, "You gave me something I'd never had, freedom." Daniel's eyes welled, but he said nothing. Just smiled. For once, words weren't enough. Emily stayed in the town. Not as a billionaire. Not as someone hiding. But as a woman finally writing her own story. And Daniel? He didn't just gain a shop. He gained a friend, a partner in life, and a reminder that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. Forever. The story of Daniel and Emily is not just about a runaway bride or a hard-working single dad, it's about the extraordinary power of ordinary kindness. When Emily fled a life built on wealth and expectation, she didn't need luxury or rescue. She needed to be seen, heard, and treated like a person. Daniel, with nothing more than a warm jacket and an open heart, gave her that. Through quiet mornings, greasy hands, and the laughter of a little girl, Emily discovered the beauty of simplicity and the strength of choice. And Daniel, who had always carried life on his shoulders, learned that even the smallest acts of compassion could ripple into something life-changing. Their journey reminds us that real wealth isn't found in money or titles, it's found in people. In moments of trust. In selfless help given without conditions. In a world that often feels disconnected, this story stands as a gentle, powerful truth. Sometimes, the most unexpected encounters lead us to exactly where we're meant to be. And the greatest gifts come without a price.